Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Administrations and Public Works Committee for Monday, October the 13th. Just for your information, we are taping tonight, so it's not a live broadcast for it, so we were taking a little bit more time. We had a little technical difficulties. We do have a quorum, and I may have a motion for the approval of the minutes of September 22nd. Approve the minutes.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any additions, corrections, deletions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have under items for this consideration. First is the City of Evanston's payroll through September 21st, 2014 for $2,728,279.51. Motion.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A2 is the City of Evanston's bills through October 14th, 2014 for $6,051,237.99. And credit card is $128,220.55. Is there a motion?
Second.
Are there any questions? Everyone had a chance to look at the bills list? Okay, I see no lights. All in favor? And any opposed? Okay, moving on. Alderman Beckwith?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move item 3.1, approval for the contract to award O'Hara Construction Inc. For the Fire Station 2 interior renovation project in the amount of $157,451.72.
Second. It's been moved in second. Are there any? See no lights. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alderman Blair, welcome back.
Thank you. A 3.2, I ask for your approval of the purchase of 224 trees and planting services for 100 trees from Suburban Tree Consortium in the amount of $53,683.76.
Alderman Rainey.
Madam Chair, I think it's important to point out that the Replan Express was able to make a purchase of, I think, 24 additional trees? A couple of dozen, 24. And that's where residents can sign up to have a tree planted more quickly by paying for it.
Right.
So I thought that was great.
That is good. That's the only light I see. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to A 3.3. We have speakers for this particular item, so we'll take the speakers first and then we will move it. So it'll be on you, Alderman Rainey, when we finish with our speakers. We have Mr. Patrick Hughes, Miss, I think it's Kelly Grace, Dylan and Elizabeth Elmwood, and we have Lauren Broski. Go and step up to the podium.
Hi.
And I'm sorry, Josh Gilbert as well.
Patrick Hughes, I'm 1317 Livingston Street. I have a business over at 2000 Greenleaf, so sort of near Penny Park. I'm just, I thought this was going to be a little more intimate setting, so this is a little nerve-wracking. But I just wanted to say that I applaud the renovation of this park. When I was just talking with Julie Cutter, who is the mother of the person who sort of was who organized Noah's Playground at Lighthouse Beach, and just sort of talking to her about what a new park would mean. And we were just talking about how I think that park has a lot of energy around it. People love Penny Park. But she was saying that with the new addition of Noah's Playground, many more people are benefiting by that park. wasn't really sure what to say here today. I was thinking about my son's former school, Orrington, which I brought some pictures here, which it's totally inaccessible. The school is 100% inaccessible if you're in a wheelchair, right? So no grandparent, no student, anybody could go to school there. And Willard was like that until a couple of years ago, Willard School. Actually, the $5 million addition went on the school, and the elevator was taken out of the building plans. So a $5 million addition got them a nice new addition, but no access to the school. So grandparents and, God forbid a kid become disabled and need to go to school there, couldn't go to school there and would still be going to, I don't mean to digress, but what I'm saying is now they put an elevator in. They went back and put an elevator in. And the benefit from that is awesome. And, access to me for any public facility should be accessible, period. End of story. So that any grandparent, anybody who wants to do whatever they want to do in the park, wherever they want to do it, should be able to do it. And I applaud the city for doing this, and I am in full support of it. Is that what I'm supposed to do here?
Yes. Yes.
That's what I
Thank you.
wanted to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, the Elwood.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Kelly Elwood. This is my daughter Grace, my son Dylan, and my daughter Elizabeth. We are proud members of the Second Ward and have been residents in Evanston for almost 15 years. We are coming to ask for your support of the Penny Park renovation project. My kids have grown up at Penny Park and are still growing up at Penny Park. It's our favorite playground in the city. It allows for a lot of creative play. If you've seen us there, you've probably seen Elizabeth doing shows in what we call the stage area. We've gone on numerous rides in the wooden car / truck / spaceships / playground area in the middle. We've bought a lot of ice cream cones and tickets from the wooden area in the front that looks like a little stand, right? But we do have some concerns about the condition of the park. The visibility is troublesome. I can tell you that playing hide and go seek there adds worry to parents. There have been times when I literally could not find my child. The wood beams are thick. The parts of the pathways are narrow, and you can't see around or behind the structure. So there are times when literally I've gotten that strike of terror as a parent where I couldn't see my child. And I'm not alone. I've seen other parents stand in the middle and calling out their kid's name, worried that they can't find them. We've also noticed that there are parts of the park that are breaking. We can no longer use the tightrope, as we called it, because the chain and some of the pieces have been disabled. There was also a climbing wall that has been taken down and replaced by what is now a safety wood, I assume, which is not only a bummer because we can't use the climbing wall, but it's also an eyesore. It sticks out like a sore thumb. So I'm coming to you to ask for your support. I selfishly would love to be involved with the rebuild of a new park. We weren't able to do so at the first one, and I think the community aspect of a build is just amazing. Not only does it create bonding for the members of the community, but I think it instills pride in those who are involved. I've seen the drawings from the Leathers group and the renderings that have been put together, and I don't see why a new park couldn't be even better. I think it could be safer, I think it could be more fun, and I think it could be more accessible to everybody in the community. Did I forget anything? Did you want to say something?
I think that the park is very fun because there's so many pieces, because I like to play hide and seek with Mommy.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lauren.
Thank you. Council, first I just want to say thanks for making this a community process. I know Alderman Braithwaite and I have talked about the park quite a bit, and he's invested in that, as am I, and as are obviously many neighbors. I'm also a proud Ward 2 resident. I live on Florence, directly across from the park, west side of the park. My family and I bought our house because of the park. My daughter, like I'm sure many others in the neighborhood, learned to walk in the park. She falls asleep during nap time, listening to the sounds of the kids in the park. We can see the park from our house, from her bedroom window. That's why it's her bedroom. We can hear everything that goes on in the park. I'd say I walk by the park probably about 10 times a day, play in the park nearly every day, and it's a big part of our lives. I think I was really glad to hear the neighbors come out and talk about what's great about the park. Like these kids, my family and I really love the little, no one even knows what it is. That's what's so great about it. It's like a little stand that's sometimes an ice cream stand. It's sometimes a lemonade stand. It's sometimes a ticket booth. It's one of the coolest things about the park, and it's not in the new design. Sadly, there's a lot of things about the park that aren't in the new design, but I'm not really here to focus on the new design because there's a couple things I think it's important for you all to realize before you vote to approve this contract. I think I'm a little concerned about the process as much as the design. I know you all got a huge packet to look at before tonight's meeting. You probably do every week, 423 pages. The memo about the park starts at page 101, and it talks about 2 reasons the park needs to be replaced: structural failure and non-compliance with safety standards and ADA requirements, current safety standards and ADA requirements. That's pretty serious stuff, right? I don't want my kid playing on a park that's going to fall down. I don't want my kid playing on a park that's out of compliance with safety and accessibility standards. So that made me pretty nervous, and I thought, man, what are they talking about? What's falling apart in the park? Should I be going over there every day with my daughter? As it turns out, we don't really know. Primary concern is below-grade deterioration at many support posts. So I figured, okay, what's going on there? What kind of testing has the city done? None. Director Robinson announced publicly at a Ward 2 meeting last week, the city has not done any structural engineering testing on the park. To me, it is extremely irresponsible, at the least, for the city to be telling residents, for your city staff to be telling you that the park playground structure is failing without conducting a basic test. I don't know how I assume they just determined below grade deterioration of some posts, some deterioration by digging a hole and looking at them. I saw a few holes, a few months back over at the park, and that's what it looked like had been done. I actually took a picture of them. But, really, you're going to tear down this park because it's falling apart based on someone looking at digging a few holes and looking at the post below ground. Secondly, reasons. Non-compliance with current safety standards and the ADA requirements. I think my neighbors and I can all agree we all want that park to be in compliance with current safety standards and ADA requirements. So I thought, let's see where it's out of compliance. That's scary too. We don't want our kids playing at some playground that's not in compliance. I asked Director Robinson at the meeting last week specifically what the park was out of compliance with. She said she didn't know offhand and she'd look into it, which is understandable. But I figured I'd look into it myself. None. The ADA and other safety standards that apply to play structures apply to existing structures that were existing at the time those regulations and laws were passed, right? So great, if the park needs to be torn down, then it's fantastic that it's going to be brought into compliance with current safety standards and ADA regulations as it needs to and should be. But that is very different from telling residents that that is the reason it needs to be torn down. That park could stand there as long as possible and be in 100% compliance because it is an existing structure. So that's the information you have before you in this memo from the city. To me, once I started looking into it, it seemed a little sloppy. Some people might use some other words, but I won't for now. As you know, as you may know, there's other parks built by others in the city of Chicago, older than Penny Park, not being torn down. There's no parks, I mean, think about it. If every park that was built before the ADA regulations were passed was out of compliance and needed to be torn down, we'd be tearing parks down all over the city. I realize I've spoken a lot. That's what I wanted to say on these points. I'll have another opportunity to speak later. But you know this information now. You know the information in the memorandum, in my opinion, is incorrect. You can look at our website, preservepennypark.com, for the resources, ADA guidelines, safety guidelines, and determine for yourself.
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gilbert.
Good evening. I also am a Second Ward resident, and my kids have grown up going to Penny Park. They've enjoyed it. I am not familiar with the drawings of the proposed park, but I did appreciate that the designers came to Dewey School, where they went to school last year. One is now moved to Nichols, and asked for their input. I thought that was a nice touch to actually get the primary users of the park involved in the design process. And as to, I definitely want to back up Pat Hughes with the accessibility. Though it may not be required to be in compliance right now, there's still a population of people that cannot enjoy the park, regardless of what the law is. So that's all I have to say. But thank you.
Great. That's our last speaker, Alderman Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a 3.3, and our staff recommends that we recommend to the City Council. Sorry. Our staff recommends that we recommend to the City Council the authority of the city manager to execute a sole source contract for playground design and construction administration of the Penny Park renovation project with Leathers and Associates at a cost of $38,707.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I see lights, Alderman Grover, and then Alderman Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The proposal for Penny Park is by no stretch new to us. I think renovating Penny Park has been on our capital improvement program, the 5-year program. It's been on it every year, and we've just been waiting for it to kind of bubble up to the top of the list here. And it's the way, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the way we address renovations in our parks recreation equipment is that we have a plan and a program for it, and it's Penny Park's turn. It just happens to be a larger project because we're wanting to replicate what we did 23 years ago with a remarkable community build, which builds not just park equipment, recreation equipment, but also a great deal of social capital. And I see this as being a great event in 2015 when we can come around to building this playground equipment. So it sounds to me as if we have had community meetings on this. We've gotten feedback and input. There's probably more opportunity to tinker with the design here and incorporate elements that are favorites and are right now not part of the current design process. But I don't know, as a user of Penny Park myself, I've been waiting for this one to come up, and I'm really pleased that it's finally here.
Alderman Rainey and then Alderman Brathwaite.
Well, for those of us who've been aldermen and who have been involved in park renovations in our wards, I mean, there are changes made to those design meetings by neighbors right up to the last minute. And so I have no fear that that park has been completely designed and ready to be built. So I think there's probably more time than necessary left for input. I mean, I know your children all play there. I think this is a park that belongs to the city. I don't think it's just a second ward park. We appreciate your sharing it with everybody. I know my family laid pennies around Penny Park when it was being planned. And so I think, you know, just let everybody know when these meetings are, because I believe that the community is supportive of the renovation. And any effort, like Patrick said, to make this park completely accessible to people who don't have total abilities of their arms and legs would be just fabulous.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the members of this committee, and especially thank you to the residents that came out in support. I feel like I could go on for a while, so I'm going to try to be concise with my words. First of all, just in terms of the project, I recall 20 years ago, I think I was in my second year of college, being a part of the experience and remembering just how many, as Alderman Rainey indicated, people from the community came out in support of this park. And unfortunately, I can't remember all the way back, and I wasn't a part of the detailed planning, but I did this past Sunday have an opportunity to drive up to Valparaiso, where they're doing a similar project. Yeah. And we had an opportunity just to meet with their organizers, to see their city staff, members from the high school, their fire department, their Parks Foundation. It was such a community event that it was extremely moving. And I have pictures and information to show you. And one of the many folks who stood out was a grandmother who shared with me that 7 months ago she wasn't able to play on the park or supervise her grandchild. She had to watch from outside of the park. And she's looking forward to being able to play on the park with her kids. So there's the first thing that I want to deal with is this issue of accessibility and any neighbors who are confused about it. You don't need a structural engineer and architect to figure it out. How about you put yourself in the position of someone who's bound in a wheelchair and then try to move around that park and follow your kid. And then maybe you'll get it. The reason that I share that is because it's real eye-opening. You know, when I went there, I saw the large ramps. I kind of understand now what Pat's talking about with this whole accessibility piece. I mean, I'm blessed, and we're all blessed that we can walk around and follow our kids, but again, if you're in a wheelchair, try following your kids around in Penny Park. There are stairs that are narrow. There are parts of the park that you just cannot get to unless you have the ability to walk with your 2 feet. The other be a couple of things that it's unfortunate that some people aren't getting. Director Robinson and staff, we talked a little bit about the visibility and safety. I think where I will leave those comments is just that our teenagers, just like our kids, are very valuable, and their places in the park, just like I learned at Valparaiso, they had very similar situations where the visibility wasn't such that it allowed our teenagers in our community to put themselves in a bad situation. And so part of the new Penny Park design is making sure that we still maintain the uniqueness of the park, that there's still the corners and areas that kids enjoy playing with, but at the same time that it's visible so a parent is able to stand from the front of the park and able to look all the way in the back. And in terms of the failing structures, I think someone mentioned it as well. This past Sunday I was there, and there are a certain number of elements that you just can't replace. And so I don't know how bad it has to get for those that, you know, have their concerns or their, you know, their romantic connections to the park. But I think it's time for this generation to enjoy the magic, And I'm looking forward to moving forward on this project, and I do appreciate your support. Alderman Grover, you did a wonderful thing just explaining the CIP budget and helping people to understand, and I hope that they get that, you know, every time we do a large project like this, that it takes time to go in the budget, and it's so well thought out. And then to the last point, where we are, Alderman Rainey, we've had 4 meetings just to get to this point. And so Leathers was here several months ago. They did meet with the students at Dewey School. They met with the students from Cherry Preschool, and they put together a rendering, a simple sketch of what the kids wanted in the park and things that they wanted to see improve. For example, no metal slides because they get too hot in the summertime. Just little things like that. So we have a long way to go, and part of the question we have to vote on is just to solidify the contract with Leathers so we can move forward and form our committees, have the committee meetings that we did 20 years ago, and hopefully build another unique, magical park where our kids can enjoy, not for just 20 years, but for 30 up to 50 years. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Braithwaite, I just want to say that one of the emails that I received last night was from one of my residents in the 1400 block of Emerson, who said that this is their favorite park as well, and certainly my kids enjoyed going to Penny Park, my grandkids too. I do want to say though that, I don't want to put a damper on this, but it took me 5 years to get Fireman's Park done, so I don't want you all to think that Penny Park is going to be done tomorrow or even maybe next year. It takes time to get all the dollars to do that. And the other point I wanted to make is that we have ongoing maintenance in all of our facilities, so that I don't know, you know, I remember we had a conversation, I believe I'm looking at Sarah, because I believe it was in CDGB, where we had a conversation about the posts that were there, and I can't remember who. I want to say Stu Updike had been out there and looked at and saw down in the some of those posts that were not as stable as they, you know, maybe ought to be. So I think some of that sort of passes along, but I think the ongoing maintenance of our staff would certainly let us know that they may not. We haven't done a study maybe, but we certainly would have that kind of expertise. Okay, Alderman Grover.
There's a question for Alderman Braithwaite. As with your visit to Valparaiso, were they doing a second community build through Leathers?
Correct.
And what was their impression of working with Leathers a second time? Because the proposal tonight is for us to do this again with the same company and the same kind of process. And what was their thinking?
I think they were not only, and again, I have information to share. I mean, their staff was excited. Their staff is ready to come down and provide assistance. And so a lot of their marketing material for their sponsorships, expertise. Alderman Holmes, you said something important. I think if anyone's ever built a wooden deck, we all know that you don't stick the wood in the dirt. What do your contractors do? They build a nice sort of circle cement and they put the wood on top. And so, again, I'm not a structural engineer. Maybe Dave can speak to that or someone else on the staff, but so we've had wood that's been buried underground for 23 years. And the one thing that I did see that helped me to really understand is that they poured concrete and that they put the wood on top of the concrete. And so everyone that I've spoken to in terms of their staff and the volunteers that were doing the construction, they were able to provide like real detailed reasons to why they did it that way. And then the next step, I think, is that rather than going with wood chips, they're actually going to pour a very, I can't remember the exact name, I'm sure Director Robinson might be able to answer that specific question, to make it more safe and easier for folks with challenges to get around.
I think it's interesting that Valparaiso is doing another community build.
Oh yeah,
Just replacing the old
20 years, 1 week to the date.
20 years.
1 week, exactly, to their last build.
Interesting. Thank you.
I see no more lights. It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. 8.4.
Madam Chair, I move our recommendation to review and place on file the single audit report for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2013.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved in second, but we have Mr. Lyons would like to address this before we do the final vote.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Part of changing audit requirements is that we do no longer get to accept reports and place on file. The auditor is actually required to get up and discuss with the governing board. I just read a newer email just today on that subject. So I do have Hilda Renteria and one of her staff, Patricia Thier, here to go through just the communication to the governing board. Take just a couple of minutes for our single audit. And the single audit for the audience is our required review by the federal government for all of our federal grants. So all of the grants that we receive, we're required to have a compliance audit.
Or you want to wait until after?
Just a quick question, Mr. Lyons. You said that we're required to discuss as the committee or the city council, or do we suffice for the purpose of?
Given the fact that we have 5 aldermen on this committee, the regulation actually says to begin doing it with the full council, but that usually refers to subcommittees where there's not the complete representation. You might have a finance committee with 2 residents and a banker and just 1 alderman or 2 aldermen. In this case, our administration public works is composed only of aldermen. So I think we'll be fine this year. I will get further guidance, and if we need to, then they get to come to the 8:30 meeting.
Good evening, members of the committee. I'm Hilda Renteria, partner in charge of the single audit for the city of Evanston, and I have here with me Patricia here. She was the manager on the single audit, and what we want to report, first of all, is that the opinion on the single audit is an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion using the old language. Our standards require that we report to you our responsibilities as auditors, and we did that through our engagement letter, which was presented back in July. The engagement letter is dated July 16, 2014. And other required communication that we need to have with you involves aspects about the accounting policies of the city of Evanston. And what we would like to report is that there were no new policies adopted in 2013. And the policies continue to be consistent, clear, and neutral. Another area that we're required to report is whether there were any material misstatements noted during the audit, and our report is that there were none. We also want to report that we did not encounter any difficulties dealing with management during the audit. And we also did not have any disagreements with management. And disagreement for purposes of the audit means areas such as financial accounting, reporting, or other auditing matters. And we are required to report those disagreements, whether we resolve them or not. And we want to report that there were no disagreements. We are also required to obtain management representation, and management did provide that letter to us dated September 15, 2014. To our knowledge, there were no consultations with other accounting professionals, like obtaining like a second opinion on any matter related to the audit. And there were also no communication prior to retention of us as the auditors in relation to our engagement. And that's pretty much what we're required to share with you. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer those questions. And we also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the individuals in the accounting department and the program department for their cooperation in helping us complete this audit.
I see, Alderman Rainey has a question. Alderman Rainey?
Madam Chair and committee members, I read through this completely, and I was extremely impressed and was going to comment on many of the points that you made, that this was a clean, clear, neutral audit with absolutely no recommendations, corrections, etc. And you did a great job, but our staff really needs to be acknowledged as keeping, and we know, those of us on Community Development Block Grant Committee, which is really the basis for why you have to do this audit. I'm not surprised, that's all. I don't want to take away from them, but their dedication to detail and completion and thoroughness is just unbelievable, and I'm very impressed, and thank you very much for sharing with everybody your expertise on your opinion on this audit. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving right along to A5, Resolution 79-R-14, accepting the grant award for the long-term care outreach program. Staff recommends the City Council adoption of Resolution 79-R-14, authorizing the city manager to sign notification of a grant for the maximum award amount of $28,639 with age options to fund and operate the long-term care ombudsman program. I can never say it. Ombudsman program for the city of Evanston.
Second.
It's been moved in second. I see no lights. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'll move that way.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move item A6, Resolution 80-R-14, accepting grant awards in the order to help fund the Congregate Senior Meal Program at the Levy Senior Center and Fleetwood Jourdain Community Center. And the award amount is $47,556.
It's been moved in second. Alderman Rainey.
Madam Chair, I was a little confused by the documents in this item. Are we just using this money for one meal a week at Fleetwood, or is there only one meal a week offered at Fleetwood?
There's only one meal a week at Fleetwood, I believe, but there's Director McCray can respond to that.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Joan Gray, Director of Parks and Rec Community Services. Alderman Rainey, you're absolutely correct. There's only one meal served a week at Fleetwood, and that's on Wednesdays when they have the senior meeting.
And are people taken by the Levy bus to Levy Center if they want, or what?
I believe so, but I don't know how regular that service is.
How long has it just been one meal? Because for years it was,
It's been
It's
been several years.
Yeah.
did people just stop going?
That I'm not sure of. I know that they serve 5 meals a week, Monday through Friday at Levy.
Yeah.
And that's been the
Well,
primary
it was
spot.
the same program, right?
Correct.
It was the same meals and everything.
I don't remember the timeline, Alderman Rainey, but I think it happened when we really moved all of the senior
Correct.
programs to Levy and left only the senior program at Fleetwood on Wednesdays, if I remember correctly. I don't remember the time frame. I'm going to say it's been at least,
It's been a few years.
I want to say almost 10, maybe 8 to 10 years.
Really? You know,
Yes.
I thought maybe it was when they renovated the kitchen there.
No.
The program, no. Okay.
before
I
then.
didn't know, sorry.
Actually, Sheila, if you remember, Sheila Smith used to run that program at
Of
Fleetwood.
course, she's
Yeah.
my constituent.
Right.
Absolutely. And actually, Neighbors at Work had a whole lot to do with that program.
Okay. It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
A 6.1, I ask your approval of renewal of the contract award to Catholic Charities for senior meal food programs for the period October 1st, 2014 through September 30th, 2015, and the not to exceed amount of $4.45 per lunch meal.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. A7.
A7, Madam Chair, asking the committee to recommend adoption of Resolution 81R14, which the City Council would authorize the transfer of $700,000 of motor fuel tax funds for general maintenance of streets by city forces.
It's been moved in second. I see no lights. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have speakers on A9. Only, where we want to,
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll move A8 and A9? Yeah, related.
Yes.
I'll move A8, ordinance 113-014, amending our city code to allow for sale of beer in 22-ounce containers for off-site consumption. This amends the Class P1 liquor license. A9 is ordinance 114-014, amending the P2 liquor license to allow for sale of beer in 22-ounce containers for off-site consumption.
Second.
It's been moved in second. We have speakers. Maureen, you want to wait till after the speakers? Or you want to? Okay. Nikki Hiltwine, and Josh Gilbert.
Hi, Nikki Hiltwine, 820 Hinman. On August 27th, Mr. Gilbert of Temperance Brewery Beer Company went to the Liquor Control Review Board and asked for an amendment to his P2 license to allow sale of beer in 22-ounce containers. I had actually seen the agenda for the Liquor Control Review Board on that day, saw that it said Temperance Beer Company and the P2 license, so I did not go. As you may recall, I live across the alley from the P1 liquor license holder of Sketchbook Brewery. This was not P1, it was P2. I didn't go, so I didn't participate because I've never met Mr. Gilbert. I've never been to Temperance Beer Company. I've driven into the lot in front of it, and that's about it. At the meeting, Mayor Tisdall asked which other establishments sell 22-ounce beers, and the response was Binny's and Evanston First Liquors. So those are both liquor stores, and that didn't settle the matter in my mind. Temperance Beer Company is in the industrial zoning district by the Evanston Plaza, Dempster Dodge. Their area is concrete with a solid brick wall, which is the side or back walls of the Dominick stores and everything in that plaza. Sketchbook is surrounded by residences, 2 different types of breweries. I could go on, but you heard it from me before. The reason I'm here tonight is I didn't go to the Liquor Control Board meeting. Mr. Gilbert is the only one who went. Nobody from Sketchbook went. The only thing proposed was him into the P2 license. And at the very end, after the discussion, none of which involved Sketchbook, Mr. Farrar proposed that it be applied to P1 and P2 licenses. To me, it's about the process. Sketchbook, if you recall, was in the pipeline long before we ever found out about it. If appearing before the Liquor Control Review Board is step 1 of getting into the pipeline, then I think Sketchbook should apply for their own amendment to the P1 license and not piggyback on the P2 amendment. I would like to be totally at all the meetings. I don't think it's fair. I see Mr. Marin here this evening. Still have no problem with Mr. Marin. But there's a procedure, and I would like this one to go according to the book. And if appearing before the liquor board is step 1, that's how I would like it to go. I don't think that's asking too much. Temperance has been open and in operation for over a year. Sketchbook isn't even really totally open yet. They had Sketchbook Sundays where they were open from 2 to 5 on Sundays. They were open during Streets Alive. And holy mackerel, thank goodness, the end of the alley was blocked off at Main because there was a stream of people on bicycles, children in strollers, children on bikes. The alley was a madhouse, so thank goodness all the cars were funneling out the south end and the two were not mixing. So there was that, and something Friday night I saw people going in and out the back. It hasn't been a big deal, but again, they're not really open yet. They're not open all the days they said they were going to be open. I'd like to see them be up and fully operational and see how it's all falling out before any consideration is given to them selling beer in 22-ounce containers. I've seen the guys walking down the alley with the growlers, the 64 inches, I think it is. Are there 32 inches? And 32 inches.
Ounces.
Ounces. Wow, that would have been big. Ounces. You know, can we see how that plays off? And then come back and see how do we feel about 22 ounces? Will that bring 3 times as many people to the alley? Or are people going to buy 3 22-ouncers instead of 1 64-ouncer? I would just like it to be a little more fair of a process this time. And lastly, I have to admit I've gone back and forth with Ms. Mason Cup today about the liquor ordinances, the P1 and P2 licenses. And Ian, I've lost it now. In tonight's packet, perhaps, shoot, I don't know what I did.
Are you looking for the ordinance number?
It's in tonight's, the P1, whatever it says there.
It's ordinance 113-0-14.
Okay. In that ordinance, perhaps you also remember from another meeting how we met one time and when the second meeting came and the 40 ounces went down to 32 ounces and the language for not selling samples disappeared, and so we put in the 3 2-ounce samples. If you look at tonight's ordinance for P1, which I can't locate in all my paperwork, the 3 2-ounce samples isn't in there anymore again. I don't. I guess that's it. To me, it's mainly about the process. And I would like it to go by step 1, not an insertion into step 2. And Benny's and Evanston First Liquors are liquor stores. And I wouldn't want them across the alley from me, but thank you.
I have 2 lines, Alderman Rainey and Alderman Grover.
Did we have any more speakers?
No, I haven't. Well, I've got 2 speakers now, the mayor and Alderman Nguyen.
Well, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. First of all, I really agree with Nikki that if there wasn't an applicant on board for the other P license, then I don't know why we would do that. So I agree with her on that one. On the other hand, I'm curious, how is it that Evanston First Liquor's been selling 22-ounce bottles? I thought we had a limit on a minimum size, and I thought it was a quart for single bottles. The third thing is, I don't have a problem with a 22-ounce bottle. It sounds like I'm the only one in the world that didn't know that that's how craft beer was. I mean, I like my craft beer in a glass, so I don't know. And I have no problem with that if it comes in packs of 4 or 6. The reason, the whole reason behind single sale bottles, and whoever, Dick Peach or somebody said, oh, people drink, single 32-ounce bottles. That's not, maybe they do in their garage watching a game or something, but people are not out on at fairs and things drinking a 32-ounce bottle of beer. You just don't see it. So that I don't agree with. But if you're gonna sell 22-ounce bottle, I don't have a problem with that, as long as it's sold in a pack. We don't want people walking around drinking beer out of a bottle on the street, and 22 ounces is a lot. And I just think for consumption off the premises, I don't care if they're drinking it on the premises. I don't care if it's drinking on the premises, but not off the premises. I think they should be sold in 4-packs, or even a 2-pack, I might call it. But I would like to know from legal how Evanston First is selling 22. And we don't have a Benny's, although we'd love to have one if they'd like to come.
Okay, Director Farrar, do you know?
Madam Chair, Alderman Rainey, we'll follow up with Evanston first. We're following up with them on a related matter. So we'll get back to you with that further information. With respect to the sale of the 22 ounce and the business models, we asked both licensees to come to explain that rationale to the committee. I mean, it's a policy issue. They have their business model, so we'll defer to that part of the discussion to the owners and operators who are requesting the change.
Well, I think the ones who are requesting the change, I mean, they're certainly entitled to be considered, and that's what we're doing. But the ones who didn't come, you know, I'm not interested in encouraging them. If they want to come, they should come. It's a business decision on their part.
Alderman Grover?
My only question is whether there was sufficient notice of the Liquor Commission's consideration of the amendment to the P1 license, if the P2 license was the only one on the agenda for that meeting.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, the Liquor Board is an advisory body, so with respect to the issue of the notice, obviously the notice is proper right now. We did receive a written notice. There was discussion had relative to what these prospective licensees were contemplating doing for the 22 ounce, why they were doing it, how they were going to be doing it. So the notice issue is really not an issue here. It's properly before this committee and the full council. This committee and the full council makes the final decision whether or not to grant the license and take final action on it or not.
And this will go before council in two subsequent meetings, right? One subsequent meeting after this.
It is within this purview of the committee to either hold it in committee or upon request of an alderman to hold it at full council. Correct.
But it will require
and
two
it will
hearings.
go,
It will
yes.
require 2 hearings by council.
Yes.
Mayor, Lester, you want to speak? And then Lynn. And then Lorraine.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes. I'm here to speak in front of you in favor of 22-ounce containers, which I never had heard of until I went to the meeting. We asked Alderman Rainey questions. He was very concerned that people not walk out of there and start drinking in public, and I was assured, and you will hear from the experts, that it's too expensive to do that, that craft beers are in a 22-ounce container are not the sort of thing you take out to the local park and start drinking immediately. So that was one of our concerns. In terms of process, it is my understanding that our attorney, Mr. Farrar, is correct that it was coming here where it has been in the agenda, and that it will be voted on for a final vote at yet another council meeting so that everyone has been noticed. Alderman Nguyen was not informed, and that I am sorry for, and that was our mistake when we added the extra P1 or P2, whichever. P1. So that should have been done, and I'm sorry that we didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know that was going to happen enough before the meeting and did not think to have her notified, but that is our one mistake, and I apologize. But she certainly, Nikki Heldwine, did a great job of making sure that Alderman Nguyen knew, as well as Nikki finding it out herself. So I thank Nikki for that, and that's the one mistake I think we made. But we did, Alderman Rainey, go in some detail until I was satisfied that people are not going to go out and start drinking one of these expensive craft beers in the park. And the other thing I'd like to point out is that we're not going to maintain our reputation as the hip city if we only allow those things that the liquor commissioner, that would be me, knows about in advance of the meetings, because we will never be hip if we're limited to my knowledge of what goes on in bars. So let's keep our hip rate. Thank you.
Alderman Nguyen.
Thanks to the committee for hearing me. Ms. Holtwine, I think, is absolutely correct on this one. And she learned about it because she read the packet, the city council packet, faster than I did. And that was her first knowledge of it. That, I don't have any issues with Sketchbook, but that's just not the right process to follow. If this had been, and I understand Sketchbook wrote to the city staff and asked that it be extended to P1, but they should have been instructed, and this is not Sketchbook's fault, they should have been instructed that they needed to apply and come to the Liquor Commission meeting. And then, I mean, that's where we have the public come in and discuss things in a more informal manner. And I would have been there as well to discuss it. And Alderman Rainey, I had to Google 22-ounce bottles myself to find out. I'd only ever seen those in Asia, where you can get them from a vending machine. So I don't object at this point to a 22-ounce bottle. I like Alderman Rainey's suggestions that perhaps you have to buy two. But I am going to request that the P1, extension to P1 not occur tonight, that this needs to be held and discussed as to whether it should go back to the Liquor Commission. At the very least, we need to have a neighborhood discussion about this, because this is a significantly different product that's going out the door, rather than the 64-ounce growler or the half growler. So I think that even if the notice may have been technically correct, that's not how we operate now in Evanston. So I'm going to request that the P1 matter be held in committee at the very least. I would suggest that to the committee members.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
Could somebody tell me what the average price of a 22-ounce bottle of craft beer is?
$15.
$15?
That sounds right. I didn't do the research.
It was in the minutes of the Liquor Commission.
So is there a range? What's the range? Who am I? I don't know who I'm talking to.
I was going to say, I have Mr. Gilbert as to speak anyway, so would you mind coming up?
This is a 22-ounce bottle.
All right, and what kind of beer is it?
Well, this is.
I know, but did you drink it on your way in?
Don't answer that question. No, this has never been full.
What's the range of a 22-ounce?
Well, I know
craft beer.
So Lagunitas does things where they're like everyday beers in 22-ounce bottles, and they're about $5. But more breweries, and we would be included in this. By the way, my name is Josh Gilbert. I'm here from Temperance Beer Company. So we typically at Temperance, I'll just take you through the whole process, and hopefully it'll be illuminating. We can our beer in 6 packs of 12-ounce cans. That's for, well, we only are canning 1 beer right now, but we're going to expand to up to 5 beers is in the plan right now. The reason we are looking at a 22-ounce bottle is that we have, and this is what is typical for craft beer and 22-ounce bottles. We have a special beer that has been aging in barrels for a number of months. And this is the kind of beer that craft beer geeks, and I would include myself in this, like to buy and kind of treat like wine.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
I thought you were going there.
Yeah, because it's a special beer. It's not something that, a typical Bears Sunday, you're not going to just open up and pour. Maybe if they win the Super Bowl. But it really, what we're going to do with, not every presentation is like this, but what we're going to do is have, a fancy looking label and then a wax top. So it's something that really is designed to either be kept for a special occasion or even put in a wine cellar along with a bottle of wine. So a 750 milliliter bottle of wine, typical bottle of wine is about 25.3 ounces. So this is 22 ounces. It's basic craft beer's wine bottle. And then typically the prices are greater than the $6 Lagunitas. Especially ours, since it spent so much time in the barrels, we had to buy the barrels, it's going to be more than $15. And that's why we're doing the single bottles. Why we're bottling them individually. Our 6-packs all come in containers. And when we ship them off to the distributor, like the venues down the road, I did a little research into the Evanston liquor licenses, and the Class K, which is a beer and wine shop, I think there are 3 licensees. That has a container limit size on wine, but not beer. So they legally could sell these, and we're hoping that we could also legally sell these as singles rather than doubles. And the only reason I ask for that is that since it will be a more expensive bottle, some people may not want to buy two. We hope they do. We hope they want to drink one now and put one in the cellar. But obviously, if we could have that flexibility, that would be
I think that explanation really clarifies it for me. You know,
Okay.
excellent. But I do, are we concerned, and this isn't for you, Josh, but for the mayor and the legal department, that OSCO is going to call up and say we'd like to sell, single bottles of beer? I mean, and is there a definition of craft beer? What's the definition?
Well, Brewers Association, which is sort of the group representing us, all the small brewers, does have a designation. It has 3 main items that define a small brewer. And I know that the annual barrelage has to be no more than 6 million barrels. Nobody in Illinois is anywhere near that.
But that's a state.
That was it's not a law, it's like a group that represents the trade. And so it's a it's a self-definition for a lot of reasons. It used to be 2 million, they moved it up to 6 million because Boston Beer Company was getting too close to the 2 million. Anyway, and then there's like independent ownership, using a certain percentage of barley versus, rice and corn. And so it can get very technical, but there is a definition that is available.
Well, thank you very much for your explanation.
You're welcome. If there are any other questions, I'm happy to come out.
Okay. All right. Committee, what is your pleasure? I see no lights.
We moved.
It's been moved in second, but also, I want to say there was a request
Yes, that it not be,
that we not move P1 tonight.
Madam Mayor, I move the question be divided and that we only use those.
Okay. Is there a second on that? Second. Okay. It's been moved in second that we will pass ordinance 122-0-14. No, I'm sorry. 114, ordinance 114-0-14. Which would be the P2. Is that right? Yes. We'll pass that tonight and hold P1 in committee. Is that correct? It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving on now to P10. Is that me? Okay, 810, ordinance 122-0-14, dissolving resolution of Southwest Tax Increment Finance District. Staff recommends the adoption of ordinance 122-0-14 to dissolve the Southwest Tax Increment Finance District, or the TIF, effective December 31st, 2014. Been moved in second. Alderman Rainey.
Yes, Madam Chair, I just want to point out for the community and especially those who have issues with tax increment financing districts, that this district at this point has over a 500% increase in the valuation of the properties within that TIF from the day it was started. That's a win. That's a jackpot.
Absolutely.
So I just can't tell you how proud I am of our staff over the years, guiding us to doing just the right thing on tax increment financing districts.
Fantastic. So we moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have 2 items for discussion. APW1, the Union Pacific Viaduct status, is that?
I'd like to hold that one.
Like to hold that one? Okay.
Cindy came all the way back from Naperville to do the credit card.
Oh,
I would have been here anyway.
okay. So then we'll do 2.
All right. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Cindy Plant, ICMA Fellow in the City Manager's Office, and I am going to do a quick rundown of city P-card spending from January 1st through June 30th. The fast facts on this are that we have 150 city purchasing cards in use by various departments, mostly managerial and supervisory staff in those departments. And during the first 6 months of 2014, we spent $879,913 in purchases on those 150 cards across all departments throughout the city. 21% of that spending, or $189,910, was spent with local Evanston businesses. We averaged about 816 transactions on those cards every month. And broken down by department, the largest users of those P cards are the largest city departments in general, primarily Parks and Recreation, Public Works, Utilities, Police, Library, and so on and so forth. But Parks and Rec and Public Works are by far the two largest users of those cards. The purchases that are occurring on P cards primarily include the purchase of building maintenance materials. These are things like paint, light bulbs, ceiling tiles, for doing repairs around various city facilities, followed by minor tools and equipment, hammers, screwdrivers, clamps. And then food, we all like food, and travel training, and then rec program supplies, which is things like tennis balls, trophies, sporting goods. Going into the Evanston specific spending, Parks and Rec does the lion's share of spending with local Evanston businesses, because such a large portion of that spending is the rec program supplies and food. Building maintenance materials, another one of these top categories, and a lot of that spending is going on at Home Depot and Lemoy Ace Hardware and those other local businesses. So that's 21% of total P-card usage that's going to Evanston stores and restaurants. These are my favorite, the food slides, where we are doing our grocery spending when we go into that food budget. The vast majority of it is through our local stores, GFS, Food for Less, Sam's Club, and then followed by Jewel and Target. For local restaurant spending, a lot of sandwiches and pizza and donuts. Lou Malnati's Leeds, followed by Potbelly, Giordano's, Dunkin' Donuts, and Subway. So the takeaways here from this are that we're going to continue to monitor the P-card spending and usage, provide additional reports to APW and council, and continue to encourage staff that have these cards to be using them for local businesses, and to consider if I need to buy office supplies or I need to buy a hammer, to go to Lemoy or Target rather than ordering that off of Amazon, so that we can keep that money in the community.
Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Ms. Plant. It's all good information, and I want to emphasize that all of the information, probably your source, is the stuff that we put out for public digestion and enjoyment, is attached to every one of the city council packets. We review our credit card report, which includes every single one of those expenditures.
And they're also available on the website as both part of the packet and on our transparency page of the website as well.
All right, thank you very much.
Director Lyons.
Just one follow-up, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I will also be meeting with Alderman Braithwaite to talk about this with the MWEBE committee, because 21% is not where we want to be. We want that number higher, and that's something that his group has been working on, and this is great data for us to start looking at how we might do that.
Great. All right, thank you. I didn't see any more lights, so. And we're holding the viaduct.
Priscilla's not here. Congrats to her.
Oh, right, because she just had her baby, so yeah, great, congratulations. Alderman Rainey.
Well, I had a few words with Suzette Robinson before the meeting, and on that list, all of you know who have been up and down Howard Street, how the Howard Street viaduct is hacked and torn and rusted and twisted by people hitting it because it was built too low, the metal part. It's not on the list. Also, the crumbling of the concrete under the viaduct is scary. And the Mulford and Chicago Avenue Viaduct is also not on there. And giant pieces of that concrete fall down all the time. Residents actually lift up blocks and put it on the parkland over there. So I was very disappointed to see all these beautiful viaducts who need a little paint here or there, and these two viaducts not on the list. And I was told, we forgot that they were viaducts that should be considered, so. At one time, we spent thousands of dollars putting up that beautiful Howard Street sign to block out the ugliness of the viaduct, and it's deteriorated beyond repair, I think.
Well, so maybe when it comes back to us, then I would think that all of the viaducts would be added, because I think they all have. In fact, I was just at Green Bay and Emerson before I came over, and a resident was just mentioning about how terrible it looks there.
It's
with
on
that
the list,
stuff.
though.
I know, but I'm just saying, so, everybody's noticing it as well, that, so those are the only two that were left
My
out.
point is,
I got you. I got you.
Not that it is worse than any of the others, but it is worse.
Right. Okay, thank you. That will conclude our agenda, and I believe that then A, P, and W will, I'm sorry, Planning and Development should meet and probably start in the next 10 minutes. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Second.
It's been moved and second. We are adjourned.